Greetings! This is I, Titus Naraban Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome once more. We're diving back into Pathfinder lore. We're going back to the world of Golarion, and we're taking a look at some things and learning about them. We're just learning as much as we can. We're doing another Ancestry too today. Interestingly enough, I've talked about a few of these before, but one that you can't play in 2nd edition, but you can play in 1st edition. We'll probably do more of these in the future because, 1st edition had a lot more time to introduce a lot more ancestries, but they are viable as beings that you could still play in a Pathfinder game. And today, we're talking Merfolk. Yeah, that's the one. That seems like an out there one. But anyway, if you're joining me live on Twitch, hi Twitch, follow would be great. And if you're joining me over on YouTube a couple days afterwards, when this is uploaded over there, hi YouTube, liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, all that kind of stuff would be great for support on that channel over there. Have any of you played a Merfolk? That's my question for today. On my last video, I didn't ask for a question. I should have really won. But this one, I just remembered I didn't. I've played a Merfolk. I played one with, I'll just, a side story here for a second. I played one with the Strong Tail alternate racial trait, alternate trait for Merfolk in 1st edition, which gives you a 15-foot speed. I played as part of the travel domain, which gave me 10 extra speed. I was faster than a dwarf. It was hilarious. I was on my tail. I was a Merfolk cleric who went on to land because of my deity. That's it. I wanted to travel and explore the land and understand it more. Yes, homebrewing ancestries is in a way a little bit easier because of the streamlinedness. It's just finding out all the different ancestry feats. You might have to be creative or basically use examples of other ones in order to come up with some stuff. So it's pretty good. So if you find a homebrew Merfolk out there, sure. Anyway, I love to start with, plenty of us out there, you'll learn a lot from this, but you might want to do more research or maybe look up those stats for either A, Merfolk as a monster, or B, how do I play a Merfolk? And well, I can give you some information on that. And let's get started because this one's going to be a complex one, and I'm going to mention a lot of books. So where do we start? Of course, we start with where Merfolk were introduced, the Bestiary. From there, Merfolk were defined more in the Inner Sea World Guide. And finally, Inner Sea Races is where the first time we get information on how to play a Merfolk. So now we've had 3 books, 3 things of Merfolk. Finally, we can play one. Advanced Race Guide continues with some more information on playing Merfolk. And Bestiary 5 introduces to something we're going to talk about today, the Deep Merfolk. Finally, the Lost Outpost gives us some of the lore we're going to talk about for Merfolk today. So if you want to dive deeper into that lore for Merfolk, you'll find out why. The Ruins of Aslant from the Ruins of Aslant Adventure Path, specifically Lost Outpost, gives us to it. And finally, for some of Merfolk civilization, we go to Raiders of the Fever Sea from the Skulls and Shackles Adventure Path, which implies, and we learn about some of the oceans of Golarion and some of the cities and civilizations that are there. But boom, Merfolk. Let's talk about them. Well, to begin with, we have to define who the Merfolk are, because Merfolk is a common name, but they're also called by a different name. And I'm going to butcher the way that this name is spelled, so apologize ahead of time, because there's a Sapaquali Oaths. That's SAPIAQUALI-OTHS. Sapaquali Oaths. In the language of the Ogolthu, their creators. If you don't know the Ogolthu, let's go by one of their more common forms. Cough, 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 aboleths. Cough, cough, cough. Now, Ogolthu, I don't know if they're called as much aboleths anymore with the update on things. But, if you're familiar with them, fish monsters, beings from above, they caused the, attempted end of the world. That was the big, Earthfall. They caused that, tried to wipe out all of humanoids, things like that. Ancient enemies of the Aslant Empire, alien space invaders / outer space slash like dark tapestry invaders, you know. Yeah, they created Merfolk. Who'da thunk? That's an unusual thing. You know, this is an interesting fact about them that, you know, no one really discusses. But the good news about them is they were ignored. So yes, we'll talk about that. But anyway, beyond their creators, they are humanoids that are encountered often in temperate waters and coastlines throughout the inner sea regions. They've got the upper torso of a human or an elf, and the lower bodies with a fish-like tail and fins. They are xenophobic and commonly attack other races or other ancestors that encroach upon their territory. And the only other intelligent creatures they consider allies are, of course, Ulgoths. They're technically the creators of them. We'll talk about that, you know. They define that just a little bit. So yeah, a Merfolk's features, if you're just looking at one, you know, even though their usually features are built to resemble more of a human physically in the way that their bodies are built, oftentimes their subtle features on their appearance can look a little bit more elven. So that's kind of why they look a little human and look a little elven, and not quite even like half elven. They're something else that kind of has some traits of that. It's again, a fish race's attempts to create something that resembles humanoids. Because they also have this almost attractiveness to their upper bodies, other ancestries will sometimes experience feelings of desire to the upper body. And, you know, of course, the lower body is that of a scaled tail of a giant fish. Female merfolk are a little smaller in size than male counterparts, but in general, that was a fine joke. It was a fine joke. I don't mind that one. That's a fine joke. But in general, members tend to weigh around an average of 200 pounds and be about 6 to 8 feet long. So again, males a little larger than females, but not by a big difference. And the hair and scales come in a wide variety of colors and hues. And despite the variety in their appearance, their shared habitat tends to boost similar pigmentation. So they can have a lot of variety in their appearances and things, and some can be a little bit more fish than others, and in various ways, and their shades and pigmentations can be different. But yeah. And now I'm going to give you a really pleasant picture of a deep mermaid. As a deep mermaid, we'll talk about this nice one here in a second. Before we do, they are adapted to life underwater, but it's important to note that merfolk are amphibious. They can breathe both in and out of the water. They're capable of traversing short distances across land. These journeys are rare, and they tend to stay in their aquatic homes. Most of the time they favor temperate waters, but they can be found in coastal and deeper regions of Arcadia, Oberai oceans, in the inner sea and the steaming seas. Little known fact, if you are interested in about it, that Cyclops have a particular love of mermaid flesh, and will often trade very valuable things for that delicacy. So, apparently, according to Cyclops, delicious. Now, look, you know, I'm just sharing the information. I'm not suggesting going out and eat a mermaid. Not a great idea. Or merfolk. Sorry. Now, deep merfolk. They are a type of merfolk that has adapted to very deep depths. They have transparent, dark transparent skin and are in ocean trenches. They do share some traits with those that are towards the surface, such as humanoid torsos and fish tails. But their darker, transparent skin makes them harder to see. Their flexible bodies have adjusted to any amount of water pressures, and many of them decorate themselves in bioluminescent dyes as a form of communication, as well as to lure prey. And they battle merlicants for control of thermal vents on the ocean floor. Merlicants being a half-human, half-jellyfish aberrations. You know, so that there might be one to talk about in the future, but you can't play them. And there will be deep merfolk on the plane of water that live in dark seas near the border with the plane of earth. So they are also in the plane of water. Whew. All right. So let's talk the history. History of merfolk. Anyway, so the merfolk, or Spyquali Oaths, were the first attempt of Olguthus to create humanoids. That's why they were kind of forgotten by them. They were discarded, left alone by the creators, and they began experimenting with other creatures and interfering with terrestrial societies. Basically, this is their first experiment. It didn't really go the way they wanted to. They moved on to other experiments, or to continue their basically manipulation of the surface people, led to the battles with Aslan and all that kind of stuff in the future, and, you know, different things related to that. So, yeah. Merfolk in general have forgotten about their origins. It's so ancient, they don't remember. These are from, like, early ancient days, like pre-Aslan, early civilizations time periods. The earliest of civilizations of humans and stuff like that, maybe, even. Or even before human and other similar humanoid civilizations really developed. Elves could not even be that well developed. They could be just new visitors to Golarion. But anyway, because of their creators, they are instinctively xenophobic. And they do prevent intruders from entering certain deep places of the oceans for reasons they don't understand. These are remnants of instincts imprinted by Olgothus in the distant past. So there's still a little bit of that instinct that was built into them there, but generally speaking, they've mostly moved on from that. But again, that xenophobia, that distrust remains. So that is a problem they have. They are highly xenophobic. They shelter themselves in hidden communities and protect their territories and they hold from outsiders. They are generally most distrusting of surface races. And they particularly go to great lengths to conceal presence from those that live on land, mostly. So, as a result, in general, most merfolk settlements are unknown to the surface dwellers. And the chances of encountering a merfolk, if you are a surface dweller, is very unlikely. It's very uncommon. And again, because of this infrequency, there is some rumors by sailors that their presence is an ill omen by them. So, you know, there is that, like, oh, I've seen a merfolk. Ah, we're doomed. Storms are coming, or something like that, you know. And it's that infrequency of sightings. But again, unfortunately for merfolk, something that's still built into them, that xenophobia does go below the water as it does above. They'll keep aquatic animals for purpose of a companionship, but they generally isolate themselves from other aquatic undersea species. The exception is, of course, their original creators, Olgothus, the fish-like aberrations. For some reason, they can just trust those guys. And many of them will serve Olguthu masters willingly. And Olguthu masters known among themselves as aboleths. So keep that in mind. That's if I talk about Olguthu master, that's an aboleth. So, yeah. And someone will just serve them willingly. Unfortunate that it's, you know, that imprinting still remains. So if I'm on Golarion, where can I maybe find merfolk? Well, beyond the undersea canyons and of the doomed continent of Aslan, which a bunch of them have moved into, there are some other places. And I'll list a couple of places that you can find. But again, Aslan is a good popular place to hang out with. Turns out, places on undersea canyons of a continent that was ravaged by a apocalyptic event done by your creators means that maybe you have an instinct to move in there for reasons. Chusavose is a small, by surface standard, merfolk city in a trench in the steaming sea. They coexist peacefully with the elves of Mordred Spire, which are located in this region, and but they are forced to make offerings to placate the krakens of the Endless Eye. So they are in an interesting situation that we can actually see them, that these particular merfolk do get along with surface dwellers, particularly one group of them. The Jaisal is a city located in the Obari Ocean, and it's protected by a forest of deadly stinging anemones. Outsea, which I'm showing a picture of nicely right here, is something I talked about when if you want to go check out the old video, the River Kingdoms. It's not an exclusively merfolk inhabited city, but they comprise a plurality of the amphibious creatures within the River Kingdom city of Outsea. So, yeah, that's another situation where merfolk have begun to get along with other undersea creatures and above sea, or underwater creatures and above water creatures, just because of situations. So that's an area where, again, their xenophobia is being counteracted by, getting to know some people, either forcefully or, because of situations. And then finally, Storm Shoal is a merfolk settlement that floats beneath the waters at the edge of the Eye of Abendigo. It's a fortress comprised of coral and stone and anchored in place by gigantic seaweed fronds. Native merfolk that live the native merfolk here live in near isolation, and the surrounding area is made dangerous by, of course, the eye, so they really can't get in and out that much. Now, there are merfolk that have emigrated to the Plane of Water, where they live in secluded in the dimly lit seas. They use their illusion magic and other mundane techniques to hide their homes, often to the annoyance of travelers and the plane's other inhabitants. Several tribes live in the jungle of worms, using it as shelters from the dangers of the plane's open ocean. And again, that's a place on the Plane of Water. I'm not getting into the Plane of Water today, but it's a place called the Jungle of Worms. It's a place of corals and sea anemones. So yeah, but yeah, there you go. There's merfolk for you. An interesting group. I gotta be honest. I didn't know about the Olgothu stuff until I did research for today. That was an interesting thing to kind of dive into. I mean, like, I've played a merfolk, so, I'm just sharing. I've had some experience playing a merfolk. Some. But, it's very interesting to see that, like, they are beings that have gone beyond their old creators, and honestly, their creators might not even know they are their creations. They might even recognize that. Certainly as aquatic creatures, and Olgothus being, like, seemingly trusted by them, they can be basically tricked into being servants of them, even willingly. It doesn't take a lot. And it's an unfortunate thing about them. And yeah, they are beings that are horribly xenophobic and try to maintain distance from other humanoids, other creatures. But, certainly speaking, it doesn't mean they can't learn. We've seen it in some of their places where like the Mortonspire Elves, where they are allies in good standing with them, or in the River Kingdoms and Outsea, where this group that's been forced in this place to work together and learn to work together and get along with each other, or they're going to get killed and screwed. Situations can develop different things. It's just that most merfolk are not going to have that opportunity. They're going to live in their isolation, deeply hidden in the oceans, and be on their own. Hopefully, you'd hope that they're not getting influenced by their former creators in dark and terrible ways. Olguthu are kind of still awful. I mean, we talk about their 5e version, which I don't even know if they're really called. They might just be Olgothu Masters now. They might not even refer to them as in the new stuff. Well, we'll see in the Bestiary core when that comes out, like how they're referred to as. They might not have that Aboleth name anymore. Similar to a lot of other things that have changed since the new core stuff came out, and they're separating from D&D. And I'll go through Masters. Fine, we'll just maybe go by that then. I'll go through Master. the Merfolk. Still beholden to them, even after all this time. Even after they've been abandoned for so long and forgotten that they were created by them. Anyway. That's why the Rudes of Ansland Adventure Path, they talk about Ogolthus and their creations, such as Sapai Qual Oaths. Again, I'm probably butchering that over and over again. I try. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed learning. And again, you can play them in 1st edition. 2nd edition, not yet. Who knows if you will be able to. Maybe, maybe not. It's still, I feel like it would be another interesting one to add in, so I would hope they would. But, you know, that's up to Paizo if they want to do the fishtail meme again. They did it for 1st edition, and I'm one that played one of them. So, if you want to see more of my content, if you want to join me live on Twitch every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are the tabletop days. Thursdays usually the Pathfinder day. Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's early to mid-afternoon. Saturdays, as close to 11 as I can get for started. All that stuff goes up on YouTube a couple days later. Wednesdays, and those all EST, Eastern Standard Time. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. EST. In the evening, Crimson Queen. It's my live play of a Pathfinder 1st Edition game. Check it out. Really fun. Great. I enjoy it a lot. And then on Saturday, we have, of course, discussing tabletop at 6. Tabletop, we talk about the news of the week, deeper discussions in the tabletop world, more stuff like that. I have social media, Discord, Twitter, linked below. Again, all the tabletop stuff ends up on YouTube, so if you're on YouTube, you can see it all there too. You don't have to join me live, but I would like to, be nice for people to stop by. And of course, I do some more gaming streams over on Twitch if you want to check those out. Those aren't uploaded on YouTube too, but if you ever want to see me play some other games, randomizers, other kinds of things like that, I do that stuff too, and wax RPGs at the same time. If you want to come in and have a conversation with me while I'm playing a video game about tabletop, I'll take it. And so until the next time, though, I'm going to say to all of you out there, have a great one. I bid you all a deep and wonderful farewell.